Today's episode, the focus is on the question, what is writer's block? Including some quotes from Dr. Dennis Palumbo, renowned psychotherapist who's also a screenwriter and crime novelist, and from some other authors who give their views on writer's block, some saying they don't believe in it and it's just a myth, which I disagree with and say so in the book. Hello and welcome to the Write the Book Inside You podcast. Tips, tools and interviews for coaches and healers like you who want to write a non-fiction book to boost your visibility, clients and cash flow while making a difference. I'm your host, Caryl Westmore, a multi-published author and energy psychology tapping book coach. Now let's jump into today's episode.
And now for a word from our episode sponsor. Every writer has faced the dreaded writer's block. But what if you had not just one, but 7 ways to shatter it? Introducing Bust Writer's Block Forever, 7 game-changing ways to kiss writer's block goodbye and unleash creative inspiration. Dive deep into transformative processes, the work of Byron Katie, Havening, EFT tapping, the journey, the alter ego effect for writers, internal family systems. And as a special treat, a bonus chapter on collaborating, even dancing with ChatGPT, your new creative catalyst. For those who've been inspired by The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, this book and accompanying video course at bustwritersblock.com will feel like coming home. Dive in at bustwritersblock.com. Now back to today's episode.
Now I'm introducing you to my AI narrator for the book, Dorothy. She's an English-speaking lady, and she will be taking you through that part of the book that I've just described. Enjoy.
Chapter 1. Introduction. What is writer's block? Do the following sound familiar? When you feel blocked as a writer, you want to jump ship, give up, whip yourself into a frenzy to beat a deadline, beat up on yourself for losing your mojo. Dr. Dennis Palumbo, a former Hollywood screenwriter, novelist of a crime thriller series, and renowned psychotherapist, says you are not alone. His wisdom comes from his own writing life and counseling thousands of blocked writers he has worked with. Let me tell you the shocking case of Joseph Mitchell of The New Yorker, who had writer's block for 30 years. His biographer, Thomas Kunkel, describes this in Man in Profile, Joseph Mitchell of The New Yorker. Mitchell was an acclaimed award-winning journalist on the magazine from 1930 to 1964. But though co-workers watched him arrive at The New Yorker for the next 30 years, closed the door of his office to work, heard the sound of typing inside, he simply produced nothing publishable while still collecting his paycheck at the end of every month. For 30 unbelievable, shocking years. What exactly was Joseph Mitchell doing all those years at The New Yorker? Kunkel, his biographer, gives us an insight into what happens with the worst kind of writer's block. Brilliant ideas, even years of research. In his case, one of his projects filled 7 filing cabinets, yet all come to naught. What possibly caused his chronic writer's block? Was it crippled creativity, low self-worth, or perfectionism? Friends said one likely cause of Mitchell's inability to finish anything was his strain of perfectionism, which had only grown more acute through the years with his literary acclaim. His biographer gives us an insight into the pain of his situation. None of this was easy for Mitchell, of course. He was acutely aware not only of the internal curiosity, but also the growing number of people outside the magazine who wondered why on earth The New Yorker continued to pay a writer, notwithstanding his past accomplishments, who was not writing. Nobody ever stopped to think of the pain, how painful it must have been for him not to be writing. On another occasion, Mitchell lowered his guard on the subject with an old friend, the writer Roy Wilder Jr. "Sometimes I just wish they'd fire me," Mitchell told him, "and I would go home to North Carolina." Instead, his writer's block lingered on until he died, aged 87. There are few experiences as depressing as that anxious barren state known as writer's block, where you sit staring at your blank page like a cadaver, feeling your mind congeal, feeling your talent run down your leg and into your sock. So says American novelist Anne Lamott in her book Bird by Bird, Instructions on Writing and Life. Writer's block is a frustrating and challenging state of creative paralysis, characterized by a lack of inspiration, motivation, and the ability to effectively express oneself through writing. The writer sits down and faces a blinking cursor, feeling bereft of creative inspiration because the words don't flow. This is also called blank page syndrome. As prolific novelist Jodi Picoult says, you can't edit a blank page. Writer's block can manifest in different ways for different individuals. Some may experience a temporary loss of creativity and struggle to start a new project, while others may face difficulties in completing an ongoing piece of writing. It can last for a brief period or persist for an extended duration, causing significant frustration and affecting a writer's confidence and productivity. Procrastination, loneliness, doubt, fear of failure, rejection, just plain fear. What does it mean if you struggle with these feelings on a daily basis, or at a key stage of your writing journey? What does it mean when you are banging your head against a wall when trying to begin, finish, or engage in a writing project? To quote Dr. Palumbo, it means you're a writer. He says, calling it a block is a semantic problem. We immediately want to break through it and thus forfeit the opportunity to examine, find out what in fact it is, says Dr. Palumbo. What if instead writer's block is a signpost, a harbinger of something important like a transition? Think of it like this, he says. You, the writer, stand on one plateau staring across a chasm at another plateau at a slightly higher elevation. You want to make that creative leap, but fears and doubts hold you back, frozen in mid-leap between where you've been and where you're going. He also says to think of your writer's block as balled-up tension waiting to give you a new spurt forward. Agreeing with him, I teach that you need to explore what's within that tension. Could they be old beliefs, self-concepts, past writing traumas, or intense moments where you aspired to perfection? I'm proposing the block is really a self-protective mechanism, one probably installed in your childhood. Something may trigger fear of risking self-exposure, shame, and potential humiliation that might have struck deep in your early years as a child, yet emerges now at this block in your adult writing life. Your inner child may be setting up his or her defense mechanism to protect you from that hurt when your teacher humiliated you in front of the class for your essay. You will learn how this defensive mechanism is fundamental to understanding writer's block, particularly when it comes to grasping the vital importance of our parts, as we discuss in the chapter on internal family systems.
In the next session, I will answer the question, who am I and why this book? Thanks for joining me on today's podcast. Want a free gift to inspire you further on your book writing adventure? My free checklist, 5 book hook tips to kickstart your book writing journey, will help you get clarity on the key essentials to make your book a winner. Download it at writethebookinsideyou.com/free gift. The links are in the show notes. Until next time, a big virtual hug and keep writing.